My name is Wesley Carver. I'm 31 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been the operations manager at Carver Logistics, the trucking company my father, Franklin, built from nothing in Akron, Ohio, while my younger brother, Griffin, breezed through college on Dad's money, partied his way through a business degree barely used. I was here every morning at 6, managing routes, dealing with drivers, and keeping our 18-wheelers moving across the country to keep America's supply chains alive. When I was 26, I married Haley, a radiologic technologist at Akron General Medical Center. She was smart, driven, and exactly the kind of woman I thought would be by my side through every challenge. We bought a modest 2-story colonial in Fair Lawn, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, and built what I believe was a strong, honest marriage rooted in trust and shared ambition. But around September of 2023, subtle cracks began to form. Haley started working what she called extra shifts. Yet when I called the hospital, those shifts didn't appear on the official schedule. She'd leave at strange hours, claiming she was needed for emergency CT scans or MRI procedures. But her tone felt rehearsed, too smooth, too careful. Her phone, once casually lying around, was now always face down on the nightstand, and she flinched every time it buzzed during dinner, forcing a nervous smile to cover it up. The strangest part was her sudden friendship with my mother, Loretta. They had never liked each other. Loretta always adored Griffin, the golden boy who could do no wrong, and she'd often make snide remarks about Haley's attitude or wardrobe, especially at church. Yet suddenly, they were having long phone conversations that ended abruptly the moment I entered the room. Then Griffin started showing up at our house more often, always when I wasn't home. At first, it seemed harmless. He'd stop by with coffee or text Haley that he needed to fix something in our garage. Griffin had always been the type to charm his way through life, lazy but likable, always with an excuse ready for his failures. But now he was suddenly Mr. Helpful, appearing with tools and that fake grin, claiming to lend a hand. Whenever I came home unexpectedly, I'd find them standing a little too far apart, eyes darting away like kids caught doing something wrong. Haley would fumble with dishes or pretend to clean, while Griffin would mumble an excuse and rush out. I'm not a jealous man by nature. 5 years of marriage had built what I thought was unshakable faith. But logistics taught me that when numbers don't add up, something's off. So I began to observe. Every time Haley worked a mysterious extra shift, Griffin was conveniently away from the company. When she was supposedly at the hospital on Saturday afternoons, his phone was off. When she worked late on Wednesdays, his company truck disappeared from Dad's lot. The timing wasn't coincidence. It was a pattern. By October, my suspicion solidified into dread. Haley began showing signs of morning sickness. At first, she tried to hide it, brushing it off as stress, but I noticed her sudden aversion to coffee, her quick trips to the bathroom, the uneaten breakfast cereal. When I gently suggested a pregnancy test, the flicker of panic in her eyes said everything. "We don't need to rush," she muttered, forcing a smile. "It's probably just a bug going around." But I wasn't naive, and I wasn't about to confront her without proof. Years of running logistics had trained me to track details, and I decided to apply that same precision here. Griffin drove a Company F-150 equipped with GPS tracking, and as operations manager, I had full administrative access to all fleet data. I started cross-referencing his daily routes with Haley's work schedule, and what I found confirmed my worst fears. On every day she claimed to be working late, his truck was parked within 5 miles of unrelated locations, hotels, motels, and residential areas that had nothing to do with business operations. October 2nd, 2023, Haley's double shift from 2 to midnight. Griffin's truck sat for 6 hours at the residence inn on West Market Street. October 9th, another emergency shift. His GPS showed his truck parked at the Hampton Inn on Montrose Avenue all afternoon. October 16th, Haley's weekend shift. His vehicle was stationary at a rest stop off I-77 for nearly 4 hours. I printed every report, dated and filed them carefully, locking the evidence away in my office cabinet. But GPS data alone wasn't enough. I needed undeniable proof, something irrefutable. So I began auditing Griffin's company credit card. Normally, Dad let him put personal expenses on the business account, but now I examined every charge. Hotel rooms paid in advance. Restaurant bills at upscale places in Canton and Hudson. Places Griffin would never visit alone on weekday afternoons. Purchases at Victoria's Secret, which made no sense for a man who'd been single for nearly a year. Then came the final nail in the coffin, a recurring charge at Dr. Patricia Morrison's OBGYN clinic in Cuyahoga Falls. 3 visits, all during Haley's supposed work hours, all paid with Griffin's card. Each detail fell into place like pieces of a cruel puzzle, and in that moment, I realized the truth I've been avoiding. The woman I loved and the brother I trusted had both betrayed me in the most unforgivable way imaginable. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep digging, no matter how much it hurt. The next step was the bank records. Haley and I shared joint checking and savings accounts at Key Bank, something we'd opened together when we bought the house, back when trust wasn't something I ever questioned. I pulled our statements for the last 6 months and immediately noticed a pattern that didn't sit right, cash withdrawals that didn't align with our normal spending habits. $200 here, $300 there. Always on exact days she claimed to be working those mysterious extra shifts. When I asked her casually about them one evening while we were making dinner, she smiled faintly and said she'd been helping her sister with some financial trouble. The explanation might have sounded reasonable to anyone else, but I knew better. Just a week earlier, we'd video called her sister in Portland, Oregon. She'd just gotten promotion at Nike, smiling ear to ear about how great life was going. The lie was so obvious, so careless, that it almost felt insulting. Still, I kept my composure, pretending to believe her, because I knew I was close to something big, something she desperately didn't want me to find. The breakthrough came unexpectedly through something as simple as our shared email account. Haley and I had created a joint Gmail when we got married, mostly for bills, insurance documents, and family plans. We both knew the password, and for years, neither of us had a reason to hide anything. Apparently, she'd forgotten that small but crucial detail. One quiet Saturday morning in late October 2023, while she was out getting groceries, I logged in to pay our electric bill. That's when I saw it, the email thread that shattered my world. The subject line read, Situation. My pulse quickened as I opened it. It was a back and forth between Haley and my mother, Loretta, and the timestamp showed they'd been emailing like this for weeks. The first message I read was from Loretta, dated October 18th. Haley, I know this is complicated, she wrote, but you need to think about what's best for everyone involved. Wesley is stable, responsible, and he'll make an excellent father. Griffin isn't ready for that kind of commitment, and honestly, he may never be. What Wesley doesn't know won't hurt him, and this baby deserves a secure home with someone who can provide properly. My heart pounded as I read Haley's reply. I understand what you're saying, Loretta, but I feel awful about deceiving Wesley. He's a good man, and he doesn't deserve this. But Griffin says he loves me, and I believe him. Maybe if we tell Wesley the truth, he'll understand, and we can work something out as a family. Loretta's response came only minutes later, cold and decisive. Absolutely not. Griffin is my son, but I know his limitations. He's irresponsible, impulsive, and has no business raising a child. Wesley has spent years proving himself as a husband and provider. This baby would be lucky to have him as a father, even if the biology is different. Some truths are better left buried, dear. Trust me on this. I stare at the screen, numb, reading through every word of their correspondence, each message stabbing deeper than the last. They had mapped everything out, the doctor's appointments, how to time the pregnancy announcement, even strategies to make sure I never suspected a thing. Loretta had researched the legalities of paternity fraud in Ohio, reassuring Haley that as long as I signed the birth certificate, I'd be financially responsible, no matter the DNA. My own mother, the woman who raised me, was actively helping my wife trap me into raising my brother's child. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a conspiracy. I printed every email, every timestamp, every sickening piece of evidence, stacking them neatly beside the GPS logs and financial reports I'd already gathered. Together, they formed a complete, devastating picture. This wasn't a simple affair, but a calculated plot to manipulate me into fathering and funding another man's child, my own brother's child, while my mother orchestrated deception from behind the scenes. I didn't confront them. Not yet. In the trucking business, timing is everything. You don't deliver a load before the customer's ready, and you don't make a move before you know exactly where every piece is on the board. I needed a plan, something airtight, because once I acted, there would be no undoing it. So I called David Martinez, a sharp, discreet family law attorney in downtown Akron I'd met through the Chamber of Commerce, and set up a meeting that would change everything. I felt sick to my stomach, but I kept digging, because once you see a pattern you can't unsee it. Bank records were next. Haley and I kept joint checking and savings at KeyBank, open when we bought the house, and when I pulled 6 months of statements, I found cash withdrawals that didn't fit our normal spending. $200 here, $300 there. Always on days she claimed extra shifts. When I asked, she said she was helping her sister with money troubles, but we'd video called that sister in Portland a week earlier. She'd just celebrated promotion at Nike and sounded fine. The breakthrough came from something we'd set up together years ago, our joint Gmail account. On a Saturday morning in late October 2023, while Haley was out getting groceries, I logged in to pay the electric bill and froze an email thread titled Situation. It was correspondence between Haley and my mother Loretta, with timestamps stretching back weeks. Loretta advising that Wesley was stable and would make an excellent father, Haley fretting about deceiving me, and Loretta insisting coldly that some truths were better buried. They'd planned doctor appointments, how to time the announcement, even the legal steps, so I'd be financially responsible if I signed the birth certificate. My mother had researched paternity law in Ohio and assured Haley I'd be on the hook. I printed every email, every timestamp, then cross-referenced them with the GPS logs and credit card receipts I'd already collected. The credit card audit was damning. Hotel rooms paid during Haley's supposed shifts, dinners at places Griffin would never patronize alone, charges at Victoria's Secret, and recurring payments to Dr. Patricia Morrison's OB-GYN in Cuyahoga Falls. 3 visits paid with Griffin's card, all during Haley's work hours. I didn't confront anyone. In logistics, you don't move until every box is checked. I retained David Martinez, a family law attorney in downtown Akron, the same day, paid him in cash, and quietly began securing my finances. I opened a Huntington checking account in my name, rerouted paychecks, removed Haley as beneficiary on life insurance in my 401k, changed passwords, and moved half the funds from our Edward Jones investment account. These weren't vindictive moves so much as necessary precautions. If they could plan this, they could also clean us out. Meanwhile, the conspirators grew sloppy. Griffin started attending Sunday dinners he'd always skipped, hovering around Haley with possessive, proud look that made my jaw ache. In mid-November 2023, Haley announced she was 8 weeks pregnant. The timing matched the September hotel receipts and GPS logs perfectly. Everyone celebrated. Dad popped a bottle of champagne. Mom talked about converting the spare room into a nursery. And Loretta praised me for being such a stable, responsible man, words that now felt like a scalpel. By December, I had GPS logs, bank records, emails, and witness accounts. But I wanted photographic proof that would hold up in court. I hired Rachel Torres, a private investigator and former Cleveland detective, gave her the files, and asked for surveillance during Haley's next shift. On December 15th, 2023, Rachel sent a secure report with time-stamped photos. Haley and Griffin entering a room at the Courtyard Marriott in Canton and leaving 3 hours later. Griffin's hand on her lower back, a lunch at Bender's Tavern with Haley's hand over his, and a parking lot photo with Griffin's hand on a small, visible baby bump as they smiled about their future. I paid Rachel and added her report to the growing, airtight folder. I had David draft divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences in adultery, prepared a DNA kit to be delivered to the house on December 26th, and assembled a comprehensive binder with printed emails, GPS logs, financial records, photographs, and the PI's full report. Every piece laid out in meticulous order. I was cold and calm when I made these preparations. Anger and grief circulated beneath the surface like hot blood. I planned my timing the way I planned a shipment, where every move would land, and how to make sure the load was delivered with no losses. Christmas dinner at our house, suggested by my mother as good practice for the year ahead, became the stage for my final act, because if they've been willing to orchestrate this betrayal, they deserve to have a truth served to them in full light, with witnesses and legal steps already in place, and with no room left for their lies to hide. Most importantly, I prepare myself emotionally for what was about to happen. 3 years of marriage were about to end, and with it, the fragile web that held together my family. My relationship with my brother and my mother would be destroyed beyond repair, and the family business, the empire my father had spent decades building, would never be the same again. But I was ready. I had been betrayed by the people I trusted most, and they had made their choices long before this night. Now, they were about to face the consequences of those choices. Christmas Eve 2023 arrived with quiet, solemn beauty. Fresh snow blanketed our neighborhood in fair lawn, softening the world outside while tension thickened inside my chest. Haley spent the morning decorating the house with bright red ribbons and the scent of cinnamon candles, believing this would be a joyful family celebration. She was 12 weeks pregnant now, showing the faint curve of early motherhood, glowing with the confidence of someone convinced her secret was safe. Griffin arrived early as planned, carrying grocery bags and his usual smirk. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching him move around my wife as though the space belonged to them both. He placed his hand gently on her lower back as she stirred the gravy, a small, intimate gesture I'd seen before in Rachel Torres' surveillance photos. The ease between them was unmistakable. "The turkey smells incredible, Haley," Griffin said softly, his tone warm and affectionate. "You're going to be such an amazing mom." Haley beamed, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she said, then caught herself mid-sentence. "I can't wait to meet our—" She froze, glancing nervously toward me. I can't wait to meet the baby." I smiled, steady and cold. "Need any help in here?" I asked. She quickly shook her head. "No, we've got everything under control. Why don't you go relax? Dad and your mom should be here soon." Dad and Loretta arrived right on time, 4 p.m. sharp. Dad brought his bourbon glazed ham and a bottle of Maker's Mark, while Mom carried her famous green bean casserole, and a smile so forced it could have cracked porcelain. "Wesley, darling," Mom said, kissing my cheek, "everything looks wonderful." Then she turned to Haley with syrupy sweetness. "And you look radiant, dear. Pregnancy agrees with you." At 5:30, we gathered around the dining table that looked like something out of Norman Rockwell painting. Warm light from the chandelier, golden turkey, crystal glasses gleaming, an illusion of family harmony shimmering across every smile. I waited until everyone had filled their plates and started eating. Then, with deliberate calm, I stood and raised my glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," I said evenly, "to family, to honesty, and to the truth that always finds its way to the surface." Glasses lifted, but I noticed Haley's hand trembling. "Actually," I continued, setting down my wine, "before we drink the truth, I think we should acknowledge some truths that have been hidden at this table." The air thickened instantly. Griffin froze mid-bite. Mom's fork hung motionless halfway to her mouth. Dad frowned in confusion. Haley's face drained of color. I moved to the sideboard, retrieved a manila envelope I'd hidden earlier behind our Christmas cards, and slid across the table toward Haley. "These," I said quietly, "are divorce papers. They cite adultery and irreconcilable differences. Your signature is required by January 15th. She stared at the envelope as if it might detonate. "Wesley, what are you talking about? I don't understand." "Let me help you understand," I said, pulling out my phone. "Griffin, can you explain why your company truck was parked outside the residence on West Market Street for 6 hours on October 2nd, the same day Haley claimed to be working a double shift?" Griffin's face went crimson. I don't remember. Maybe I was meeting a client. At a hotel. For 6 hours. On a Sunday? I scrolled. October 9th, Hampton Inn. October 16th, the Eye, 77 rest stop. I have GPS logs for every location. Dad's jaw tightened. What the hell is going on here? I turned to my mother. "Mom, would you like to explain the email you sent to Haley on October 18th? The one where you wrote that what I didn't know wouldn't hurt me, and that Griffin wasn't father material." Mom's face went ghost white. "I don't know what you're talking about." I unfolded a printed email. "What Wesley doesn't know won't hurt him. And this baby deserves a secure home with someone who can provide properly. I looked up. Those are your exact words, Mom, from your email address. The silence was unbearable. Dad stared at her, then at Griffin, then Haley. Jesus Christ, he whispered. Please tell me this is what I think it is. Griffin finally spoke, his voice cracking. Dad, I can explain. Explain what? Dad's voice thundered. That you slept with your brother's wife? Got her pregnant? And your mother helped you hide it? Mom began, Franklin, please. But Dad cut her off. 43 years of marriage, Loretta. 43 years, and this is what you do to our son. I laid a thick folder on the table. There's more, I said calmly. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, OBGYN payments, private investigator photos, time-stamped evidence of every lie. I turned to Haley. Pictures of you and Griffin at the Courtyard Marriott, his hand on your belly, both of you smiling like a couple expecting their miracle child. Haley burst into tears. Wesley, I never meant for it to happen like this. I love you, but Griffin and we fell in love. You didn't plan to get caught, I said sharply, but you did plan to let me raise his child. Griffin stood abruptly. Look, I'm sorry, okay? But you can't control who you fall in love with. Maybe this worked out for best. Sit down. Dad ordered, voice like ice. Griffin sat. Dad looked at me with quiet pride and pain. Son, what do you need from me? Griffin no longer works for Carver Logistics as of tomorrow, I said. He loses all access to company assets. Done, Dad replied instantly. I faced Haley. You have 30 days to move out. The house and mortgage are in my name. Take what's yours, nothing more. She sobbed. Wesley, please. What about counseling? What about the baby? The baby isn't mine, I said evenly. DNA testing will confirm it. The kid arrives tomorrow. Mom's trembling voice broke in. Wesley, you're destroying this family over a mistake. No, Mom, I said coldly. You destroyed it when you helped them lie. Dad stood slowly. Loretta, we're leaving. Griffin, too. I don't want to see either of you until you figure out how to make this right. Franklin, wait, Mom pleaded. 43 years, he muttered, shaking his head as he walked out. Griffin followed, his eyes burning with guilt and resentment. The DNA test results arrived in early January 2024. Confirmation that I already knew. I wasn't the father. The divorce was finalized in April. Haley moved in with Griffin, who now works as a delivery driver for a competitor at half his old salary. Mom tried to reconcile with Dad, but he filed for separation and moved into a small downtown apartment. By March, Dad made me a full partner in Carver Logistics. Business thrived, and for the first time in years. So did I? I learned that the people closest to you can wound you the deepest, but also that patience, preparation, and truth always prevail. The baby was born in July 2024, a healthy boy named Dylan. I wish him well, but he's not my responsibility. Griffin and Haley live together now in a cramped Canton apartment, struggling to make ends meet while Griffin pays child support from an old relationship Haley didn't even know about. In the end, everything they built on lies collapsed under its own weight. Funny how the truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way to the surface, just like I promised in that Christmas toast.